Ciudad de Mexico. And they complained about the bandas in Mazatlan. Now, American tourists are complaining about the mariachi in Puerto Vallarta, Jalisco. Some American tourists in Puerto Vallarta, Jalisco went as far as to create a petition to shut down a local restaurant, complaining about the loud mariachi music every night. This restaurant owner also took to social media to say that American tourists are trying to shut him down because of the loud music. Someone from Jalisco, I can tell you that it is the heart and soul of Jalisco. It's where mariachi music was born. To go to Jalisco and complain about mariachi music is laughable. You can't expect that to change in just a matter of a weekend because it's too loud in your timeshare. Mexico thrives a lot off of its tourism. I know this, you know this, and the government knows this. Mexico created cities specifically for tourists to keep all the tourists there. Cancun was built for this. It didn't even exist until the 1970s. For example of this, Cabo San Lucas. Cabo San Lucas also didn't even exist until the 1970s. The question I get a lot is, why are these businesses giving into these tourists? 2 words, money talks. These American tourists have money that locals do not have. So yes, these businesses are going to accommodate them. Hawaiians have been telling you this, and now Mexicans are telling you to stop going to these areas and trying to gentrify and change the culture. To Cancun and Cabo, those are the areas that were made for tourists.
Hey, what's up, YouTube family? It's K right here. Alright, yeah, let's talk about it, man. This is a pretty interesting video for the Instagram viewers, but I've wanted to kind of talk about this for my other channels. Yeah, but before I do that, be sure to hit the follow button, do what you gotta do. I wanted to respond to Fernanda Cortez. She's a pretty good video creator, and she has good educational content in Mexican culture or just anything in general. Here's the thing, in terms of the topic of what she's saying about, I guess, people complaining, i.e. Americans being, I guess, a problem in Mexico, going to areas such as Puerto Vallarta and other parts of Mexico that are not supposed to be tourist areas, in a sense where I guess Americans are trying to quote unquote gentrify the culture. I don't think this is a really big problem, and here's my defense for it. I think the thing is that yes, certain people do have certain preferences culturally of what they want to do, but for me, I come from I guess a libertarian lens of thinking, so I'm going to be thinking more of an anti-status perspective, even though I have a really deep ANCAP background. But here's the thing, culture is very subjective, and from my point of view, in the libertarian viewpoint, culture is just a magnitude of what is preferred within society, and people use certain means of culture of what was considered their culture. Now, culture is a very broad term, because you can always say what is there is to be kept within the culture of the people, and that I do agree to a certain extent, but culture is still subjective and culture changes over time. But tradition is obviously a certain breed of culture, so therefore, if you had people that lived in Africa for thousands of years, and let's just say a brand new culture such as Chinese culture came into Africa, and it was voluntarily traded between the people, where they brought Chinese tradition into African tradition, and children were being born out of those two cultures coming together. Does that mean that the culture has been quote unquote gentrified to have the culture change, and therefore the identity doesn't exist no more? Or is that just natural means of cultural diffusion, in the sense of this is what people did, and therefore that's their means of voluntarily getting into the means of what they want to do? My answer to that is that people have certain preferences, and people can do whatever that they want to do. But the truth is that people have certain ways of what they want to believe in. Now, as far as this issue between I would say the American tourists and Mexican civilians that are native there, I don't think it's really that much of a problem, because the truth is that Americans that probably go out to Mexico, they probably don't go out there as much as people do try to make it seem like it's like a high number of people. And the truth is that if Americans were already doing this, then you would have seen some means of like political, insurrection, where there would have been some means of like trying to get quote unquote Mexicans out of a certain area that they used to live in. And that would be like a sense of using some form of preeminent domain to try to take away people's lifestyle and try to invite a new cultural breed of people to have those people live there. And that would be like, political, coercion done by the state. Now, as far as what the people are doing there in Puerto Vallarta and those, cities that were mentioned, I think the truth is that this isn't a big issue, and Americans don't play any role in cultural, norms in Mexico. So it's like, I don't think this is a really big problem, and I don't think this really poses a big threat, because it's like the truth is like, if you want to use any other example in the world, I'll probably use maybe Puerto Rico as a good example. Like, Puerto Rico's economy is obviously bad due to a lot of state influence mixed with a lot of political and corporatist means that is like destroying the like economy, because of the US plays like a role in holding its economy back, and therefore it's hard for people to expand their financial wealth, so therefore they can own property out there. And the truth is that a lot of the property that is unlivable for the people to live there, quote unquote gentrification, is coming in to bring I guess like financial expansion into the country, into the mainland. And therefore the people, they're complaining about how the people that are native in Puerto Rico are having to leave Puerto Rico, and people that have money to come to Puerto Rico to set up commerce and to expand their companies, they're not coming in to help the people, and they're coming in to basically establish whatever that they want to do for their own interests, politically or economically, based out of what the state is basically giving into to give certain political legal protection to those businesses that are basically being given political protection to establish their means on the island. Like, I don't really know the proper term that I would say for that, because I would say this is kind of like politicized corporatism in a way, because the truth is that if I lived here in, let's just say, Albany, New York, and let's just say like people in Albany were complaining about their properties being taken away by the state, and therefore people from like another country, like, I don't know, I'll just say France, were just coming in, buying up land, and they were being given political protection to set up whatever type of property that they wanted to do, like certain means that favored their interests. Like, that would be a problem to argue about, to say like that's like I should say cultural, political, preeminent domain, civil asset forfeiture of people's property being extorted from the state, and therefore the state's giving political protection for immigrants from another country to take something away that you had, to give it to somebody else that never should have had your property to begin with. But I think that's where Fernanda is arguing about. She's saying that Americans are having the means to go over to these parts of Mexico to try to complain to the quote unquote governing states in those regions of Puerto Vallarta, and like, I don't know how to pronounce like the other cities, but I guess that's where people are complaining, to say that the Mexican civilians are feeling like that they're threatened in a way, where they're not getting their fair justice, and therefore it's their land and it's their city. But I think what the truth is like, you don't have to listen to these people. These people don't tell you what to do. And I think it's obviously due to the state coming in to try to probably side with those people, because it's like, if you think about it, if there's some political means of insurrection being brought into the state where there's money involved, I would assume, yes, that the state is unethically telling people what to do with their property and what they're doing culturally, to basically tell you to not do this anymore, or else they're going to bring the guns of government to come in and take everything away and try to, extort and coercively harm you. And I think the truth is that that's that's obviously unfair, and two, that is very, very evil. Now, how do you fix this? I think this is very simple. This would easily have to be done with civil disobedience and some means of self-defense, rebellion, if there has to be. Because if you think about it, if the state is going to use violence, you have to use violence back at it to hold your ground. But I don't think this is a big issue. I obviously do believe in holding, your property rights, where you have your land, set up. And I think that's fair to say, like, on a property rights level, if somebody's telling you what to do on your property and it's your land and it's your, control to do whatever you want to do culturally, and you have, your own group of people voluntarily coming together and you're enjoying your life, yeah, you need to hold your ground, and, you should be able to do that. Nobody shouldn't tell you, what to do, along with like your friends and family, of like what you were culturally brought up to do. But see, if you are aggressing onto people indiscriminately within that area, where those people did not do harm to you, but you were doing harm to them when they came to that area, whether if they are immigrants or just people just, visiting, that area just to go there for a short period of time, then yes, that is a problem, because that is, creating a conflict between those people that live there and the people that are visiting that area. So I would say, to finalize, this can easily be this can easily be done by having some certain dispute agreement being held, where the people that live there should be informed before coming over to that area, to know that people are playing music at such and such time, and people shouldn't have to be, living in that area, or they shouldn't have to be coming over here if they don't want to be living in that type of area to stay for a vacation. And I think it would be better to go to the tourist sections of Mexico, if you feel like going to Puerto Vallarta or any other city that plays loud music at night is going to be a problem. But I think, this is like a really it's like a really dumb concept to try to argue about, because it doesn't make any sense, because it's just as ignorant to say like, oh well, this is my country, this is our culture. And it's a really dumb collectivist belief to try to get mad over something, where if you really think that people are gonna just try to come in unison and try to like use up the state's coercion to try to come and to try to tell you what to do, of what your community was culturally brought up to do, like, no, your community has that power to hold those principles and those ethics, together. So I would say, if there is a means of government violence being brought with it, you would have to just come together to defend up against that violence. And I don't think this is what's really happening in this particular issue. But yeah, that's very much what I wanted to say. I don't think this is a big issue, and I don't think Americans are really that problematic, on an international scale. But if you flip that around and see what immigrants do here in the States, that's pretty much the same way. They complain about certain things of like what certain people do here in the States. And I think it's really foolish of like, why people would try to complain something that's very minute and void about what some Americans complain about when they're going out to another country. But it really doesn't matter, because it's a really minute point, and it doesn't make any sense. So I would say, to finalize, just ignore it. I think people would easily come to a dispute resolution, and this issue would have been killed like a long time ago. But don't try to be throwing this like weird colonialism BS and all this senseless BS like a political conversation. But yeah, that's pretty much it. Hope you guys enjoy it, and I'll see you guys later. All right, peace. And I got more content coming out. All right, I'll see you guys.